Welcome to Lizzie's Workshop. Today's journal spread is a little different. It was brought on by a lot of frustration and anger and all that kind of stuff. And I worked hard on this piece and started it in kind of a fit of anger because I ended up writing a whole bunch of sticky notes of what I wanted to say to a certain individual and didn't know what to do with the sticky notes, and then it popped into my head that I had a journal to draw or to create in that could convey how frustrated I actually was. So I took my Mod Podge and I stuck some pages together, and then I took my gesso and started putting it on a page and decided, okay, well, no, I want to put some of this ripped paper on there instead. So I stopped with the gesso and added the paper first. And so I just kind of randomly ripped it up and threw it on there, and this is part of my frustration as well. I was still fresh with anger at this point, even though it was 2 days after the incident that put me into such a frustrated mode. So all I'm doing is grabbing my Mod Podge and I'm gluing on all this paper, and I've got a crease in the book, so I'm making sure that it works out. And I just keep going and adding in that paper. And the reason that I chose this paper is because it's dark and it's red, so kind of an angry kind of color, but it's also got flowers, so it's trying to be delightful. So to my to my opinion, it's not it's trying pretty hard. It's not quite making it, but I guess it just depends on what mood you're in when you're looking at something, because anything can be conveyed or skewed. The view of it, everything can be skewed by whatever mood you're in. So this paper was the perfect background because it kind of established the color tones that I wanted to go with for this spread, this release of anger and frustration. So there's a lot of lines on these pages, and I'm trying to cover up the lines, and I plan to spray afterwards, and I kind of wanted a couple of the areas that I'm going to spray to be the over gesso mottling that we've seen before. But I should have left the gesso a little bit moist when I did my spraying, because when I finally do it, it doesn't react to it the way that I wanted it to. So it's a little bit less of an effect than what I wanted it to. So I put on quite a thick layer on of the gesso on, and then I used my heat gun to allow it to dry at least a little bit. And I put on such a thick layer that I wanted it to kind of crackle just a little bit. And the reason that I'm flipping that is because the other side of that page has another journal entry on it, and I don't want it to have all the mess on it. I blow dried it a heck of a lot more than that, but I didn't. I cut that out for you. See how nice I am? So this is the leftover cardboard piece or chipboard piece that came from like a game or a set of tags or something, and then I just sprayed the heck out of it. So I started off with the Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist in chalkboard, and it's called Alaskan Salmon. And then I went to the Glimmer Mist that is called Rum Punch, and it's kind of a shiny effect. The red was Mr. Huey's Hot Diggity, and then the yellow that I sprayed on there was called Desert. If you saw that, I think you just saw my other fancy napkin. What I've been doing is using it on all my projects and absorbing all the extra sprays because I don't want to waste the extra sprays, so I've been adding it on there as well. So the intention here is to take all the negative words and have them big on one end of the page, getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and then all of my positive reinforcement words that I want to tell myself all the time, biting into that or eating all that negativity. I had a guest over the weekend, and in my own home, that guest really attacked me and who I am and who I want to be, and how I am as a parent, and attacked my children and attacked my husband, and it was overall just a horrible, horrible experience. And I can't believe the tolerance level that I had. But so I'm writing the gist of the angry words of the sticky notes that I wrote down. I really just needed to get it out of my system because I didn't want to be thinking about it anymore, and I had an upset stomach and I didn't want that anymore. So I really just, this was a whole bunch of purge right here. And the writing isn't meant to be read. The writing is meant to be put down and covered up with love. So I am boldly writing what I am proud of. I am boldly writing the things that I know about myself in this Sharpie and the bold. And I am, in a messy fine point script, I am just scribbling the anger and the things I don't care about, you know, the words that he said and the way that he acted and stuff, so on. So this punch is from Creative Memories, which is no longer in business. I don't even know if you can get this punch from the company that took over. But it is a double hearts punch, and then here's the smaller version of the same punch. And I intend to make flowers with these punched out hearts. So I took Tim Holtz's distress paint, and one of them is, the pink is Worn Lipstick, and the yellow is called Mustard Seed. And and then I spray it with water. He does this a lot and does all kinds of tags and then dries it right away. But because these are tiny little hearts, I couldn't put the heat gun on them because they would all just fly away, and then everything would be that pretty yellow and pink and my whole workspace and up the wall and wherever they chose to go. So I just kind of colored them, and then as they moved, it kept reacting. So essentially they almost all ended up being kind of this orange color, which I'm happy with it. It's okay. Next time I'll just make a page that's all big and messy, and then I will just punch things from the page. Punch the hearts from the page in order to get a different color scheme on things. So after that, I just kind of ripped up a scrap page, and I didn't want to waste the paint, so I just kind of ripped up the scrap page and then let that dry. So once they're all dry, I take this ink dauber. It's called Cajun Craze, and it's from Stampin' Up. And it's a color that blends in with everything else. It doesn't really go with the color that's on there, but it works fine because it's kind of an orangey brown color. And so I'm just edging every single heart. And I'm going to be using this to edge a lot of the other elements to this project, so it'll all be cohesive with that color and the background colors. So because this is a water-based ink, I'm going to have to protect it, so that means that you're going to see me dipping it into, or dipping every single heart into the matte medium, and that's going to put a layer of matte medium on them and allow it to seal it in, so that when I want to go and glue those hearts down, it's not going to have the color running. And then this tag is going to put the last two sticky notes. I'm going to put that on there, and so that I have a kind of a mantra to put on there. That was my fancy napkin. Did you see it? It's the last fancy napkin I have, so I'm using it on every project. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting in kind of the veins for flower petals, because I'm going to turn these hearts into a pansy type of flower with using a brad in the middle of 4 hearts. And I think I'm just using, oh yeah, I'm just using the Jelly Roll pen. I love my black Jelly Roll. So here's my piercing mat and my stabby thing, and I'm just going to poke a hole in the... After I play Tetris, I'm going to just poke a hole in all these things. So then I just put the little mini black brad through the center, and then I've got a pansy. Ignore this bone foldering because I'm going to be putting them all into my book, and they're going to be flat in the book. So the texture that I added with the bone folder doesn't really matter in this situation. It would if I was putting it on a scrapbook page, or if I was putting it on something that would allow the flowers to stay as 3D items, but I didn't do that. I glued them. I glued them flat till they had no more bounce. And this one I accidentally rip off the bottom petal, so I just kind of fake it, and then when it comes time to gluing with my matte medium, I kind of just make it all glued together. So here's another stencil from Tim Holtz. It is kind of like a ray of sunshine kind of thing. And my purpose here was that no matter how tough and how ridiculous and how horrible people can be, or how any of those things can affect your day, or how horrible your day can be, it doesn't really matter, because the sun's going to come up tomorrow, and either you can carry that stuff with you, or you can just let it go with the night kind of thing. So basically it was about looking forward to the morning, to the next day, to the sunshine, rather than dwelling on the darkness of the previous day. So the challenge with this was that my book is already getting pretty full, and I've already got a lot of pages with goop in them and 3D effects and all this stuff. So I had to kind of curve it over the edge of the book, so I'm having to really press down the stencil in strategic places in order to get it to do what I want it to. And I'm trying really hard not to allow it to move, and to not put too thick of a coat on at the same time, and trying to get it to scoop out of the container. So I'm totally multitasking here, and it worked! So I truly can't complain, because it worked. So I preserve it. I actually washed it down with a wet wipe before using it again, and then I flip it over, put it as close as I can to the stuff I just put on, and then once again I've got to curl it over the edge of the book, because it's all a mess in there. And yeah, so I just keep going slowly and surely and fill up all the spaces and all the... When you add so much so many mediums to your page, you get a really goopy place, or page. So you end up with just a thick mess that you got to kind of deal with. So this girl is called, I don't know, she's from Prima by Julie Nutting, and she's called Mixed Media Stamp. And she doesn't really have a name. But she's cute without the... I'm having trouble finding these little girl stamps that don't have like an edge of like sexy to them. I don't want an edge of sexy to a lot of what I'm doing, because most of the time I'm not thinking that way. And so it's just like children's Halloween costumes. I have no interest in filling, you know, my artistic journal with sexy things. I have no interest in making canvases of little sexy little girls, you know, like that's for a certain age, and that's kind of where I want to leave it. So this girl is as innocent as I could find when I was going through this big box of stamps. So that's why I chose this one, is because she was the sweetest. So I'm just paper piecing here, and I really like her skirt, but I really don't like her skirt because it's too short, and I wanted it to be longer, and I wanted to make it that way. So I end up kind of doing my own thing and trying to use the edge of the skirt in order to have the right shape and the right size and the right design for the skirt, for this stamp, for this figure. So that's the ruffle for the bottom. That's going to stick out the bottom. And then I take the edge of the skirt to cut the edge of the longer skirt. And then I decide to change the shape of it. So it's going to be a couple tiers. And I use the edge of the stencil skirt in order to make the right shape. And then I flip it over so I have can cut out the reverse of it in the same paper. So then I get a tulip kind of skirt there. with a light or the yellow ruffle going underneath. So here I am cutting out her hair, and on the reverse side of that flower paper is actually a Bull Bunny paper, and it's from the Back to Basics collection, and it's a reversible heavyweight paper. And then the yellow is just like a Basil Basics or something like that. It's just regular cardstock. Let me see if I can find what it's called. Nope, can't. And then the pink is just a scrap from my scrap drawer that I used. And in order to make it all cohesive, I'm using that Cajun Craze again in order to go around them all. Now, why would I use Cajun Craze on the skin as well? And that's once again just to keep the cohesion, so to keep all the color schemes the same. I'm adding pink in there when there really isn't any intentional pink on the background or on the piece yet, and I don't intend to put pink on the piece. So it's kind of a, I do end up with pink in my flowers, but it's still a different one. So in order to make everything work together and go together, I'm just using the same color to outline or to go around the edges of everything. And see here, this is definitely water-based. See how all that ink came off? So that is the purpose of doing this, of coating it in the matte medium, is to make sure that nothing's going to run. Because if I, for example, took that light pink face and ran a brush over it, I would pull that dark orange Cajun Craze right over the face, and that's not my intention at all. Now, one of the things I wanted to do with the face was to put on blushing cheeks and a pair of lips. And I really should have done that right from here, because I didn't do it until after the hairdo was glued on, and that didn't, it didn't quite have the same effect that I wanted. So on this tag, I am writing the last two sticky notes. I'm combining them, and what it ends up saying is, be who you want to be, love yourself today and every day. And it's really about something my dad told me a while ago, and it doesn't really matter what other people say about you as long as you are content and happy with who you are, or have a plan of who you want to become, and take a step forward and go. There's nothing preventing me from being who I want to be other than myself. If I listen to other people, then I'm still preventing myself. You know, if I'm allowing people to hold me back, or if I'm allowing people to discourage me, I'm still preventing them. It's my choice to allow them to prevent me. So I wanted to put that tag on there, but it was still all so dark, and I was afraid it was going to just kind of disappear into the mess. So what I did was I put on a pile of gesso and spread it around, and then I took one of my shapers and I went over it to make scratch marks in it, just to give it a little bit of texture to the base. And then I covered all the rest of the elements that have water base on them. I covered them all with the gel matte medium as well. So here I am. I'm going to start covering the main page. Now all the sprays that are on there were water-based, so they're all going to move and run and flow and go all over the place, but that's okay, because, and even the text is going to run, and that's okay too, because my intent is not for the text to be legible. My intent was to vent. So I was thinking along here that the darkness would be all the negativity, and all the light elements would be all the positivity, and how where I make the skirt dark but I make the shirt light is kind of a, you know, a coming out of the darkness, a trying to pull yourself out of the darkness, even though that's probably how I've lived my life for most of it. I've been trying really hard not to be a pessimistic person, not to be a negative person, and that's been even my husband has noted that that's been a very big change over the last year even. And even with the loss of my grandmother, that just emphasized even more how important it is for me to live my life in a fashion that I'm going to be happy with, because there are things that I want to do with my life, and if I don't do them, then there's nobody to blame for that but myself. So this is all part of that. This is come out of the darkness into the sunlight. Don't worry about what tomorrow held, because today's a new day. It's basically where I'm headed with this whole piece. Let the positive things in your life eat the negative things in your life. Look forward to the sunshine. Be who you want to be. You know, it's up to you to focus on the positive in your own life. And mind you, I have a very good life, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there who don't have a very good life and who have a lot worse struggles than I have. But everything is by perspective, and everything is based on your past experience and your future experiences. And so I don't have a hard life by any stretch of the imagination, but I do still have challenges, and I do still have struggles that I have to deal with, or parts of my life that I have to focus on. So I'm sorry that this video and this piece has been so negative, but because it started from such an angry, negative place, I kind of felt that the narration sort of had to follow along with that as well. I mean, it is all about expressing yourself, and a lot of us hide from our negative art. A lot of us hide from our negative feelings and create beautiful things to hide the negativity that's inside of us. And it's okay to have a negative moment. It's okay to have a negative feeling, you know. You have to acknowledge those, and you have to deal with them. And this is how I'm dealing with it. I'm telling it to go away with sunshine and flowers and positive notes and encouraging words. So one thing to note here with this girl is that I have paper pieced her not with paper but with cardstock, with heavy cardstock. And normally I would use like an origami paper or a tissue paper or just a plain weight paper, but this was cardstock. So the problem that I'm having is that she's so heavy and thick that she doesn't want to stick. In addition to that, I've put different layers of paste below her, and that is not allowing her to bend and flex in order to fit into that. So I essentially had to push the matte medium into the creases everywhere in order to create cohesion in a solid piece. So now I put the black in here because I still wanted to emphasize that I was angry when I created this. And now what I'm doing is I'm taking the words that were spoken and that I've said to myself, and I am loving them. I am making them positive with love. I'm covering them all with love, whether they're happy sentiments or they're negative sentiments. I'm just covering all of them with love. And the reason that I did this is because a lot of the negative stuff that I wrote was still legible, and I didn't want that to be legible. So in order to scuff it up some more, I covered it with the black gesso. And when I went around all the pieces, I was basically saying that this is coming from anger. So the reason that I used a brush, what I did is I licked the brush to get a little bit of moisture in there and the red, and then I gave her lips and I gave her cheeks, and the reason for that is that I wanted a softer red on her face than on the rest of the hearts. And then I'm going to take my white, which, because gesso is kind of an oil base, the gel pen was not being allowed to slide very gel-like onto this. And the gesso, or the, it takes a long time to dry, and it'll continue to smudge for quite a while. So I didn't want to wait. I wanted to finish the project so that I could get the video up. And so I just kind of made do with how things were and added in the white where I could, and, you know, tried to take the black off of the tip wherever else I could, and went from there. But once again, I'm going towards the white jelly roll pen because I'm trying to come out from the darkness. I'm trying to lift myself up and no longer be this negative, angry person, because um, I don't have to be. If I'm going to be negative and angry, then that's going to be my choice. So I don't want to make that choice. I want to make the choice of being who I want to be. You know, I'm tired of being who people want me to be. I'd rather be who I want to be. And then the white again, I'm containing the anger, the frustration, the negativity, and making it light, and I'm done with it. So when I'm done this, I don't need to think about it anymore. I don't need to think about what was discussed or the way that things were approached anymore. I will at some point have to address that individual, but here you can see all the layers of the girl, and here she is again. And here is the full complete page. Thank you for joining me on Lizzie's workshop.